Ladies and gentlemen, a good friend of mine, a fellow St Kilda supporter, a man who has given a new meaning to the words and Mr Ian Molly Meldrum.
Hello, Darryl.
You don't have to bend over.
I hope that everyone in Adelaide, if they watched Countdown on Sunday night, rang into the radio stations because and complained about the fact that his song is not being played on radio. The unfortunate thing is that it was probably added on Sunday afternoon and now they've taken it off. So, sorry, Darryl.
That's all right, mate.
Just before you go, Darryl, there's the first you, when I first met you, being very, actually, I mean, the guy is very straight and macho, but when I first met him, he had pink through his hair, known as the pink zoot, and it was very weird sort of interviewing a group with pink hair and them all sort of being very nervous because they thought I was camp as a row of tents. Anyway, I thought, but no, I think this is a fine example of Mr. Hairdo himself. Thanks, Darryl.
Yes. Thanks, you.
About 5 weeks ago, I was told by my secretary that there was a Patrick O'Rourke was coming to see me, and he wanted to talk about a show he was putting on in Adelaide. And the next morning, Patrick O'Rourke arrived, and he was very nervous, and he showed me a lot of photographs and spoke about the show in very nervous terms. And I finally was slightly confused, and I had to grab my secretary and take her out into the kitchen and say, "Is he a photographer or is he a hairdresser? I'm not sure which." When I finally learnt that he was a hairdresser, I sort of understood it a bit more because I've lived with a couple of hairdressers in the time over the last 2 or 3 years. Well, no wonder he's confused, let alone nervous. And I looked down at his hands and they were twitching, so I knew he was a hairdresser. Anyway, Patrick explained this entire concept to me, and I thought that, and I said to him quite frankly then, that it was a very ambitious thing to do. One, because unless the thing is done properly, with enthusiasm, then it's really not worth doing. And with Patrick, over the last 4 weeks, via the telephone, I have not met someone that's been so enthusiastic about putting this show on for you tonight in Adelaide. And I think he should be congratulated now, even before the end of the show, because he's shown an immense enthusiasm and has been right behind it, and I just can't believe the enthusiasm of the guy, so I'll give him a clap now. In fact, I'll give him 2 claps, because anyone that can get me to the phone in 5 times on one morning deserves a real big clap. Oh. What Darryl said has been very true. Being an old trooper, I've seen it come and go so many times, going back from the Beatles, of where they did wash the brill cream out and came the floppy hair. And since that time, there's been many, many hairstyles that rock images have displayed that have taken on right throughout the world. Perhaps the one that I've noted that has probably been, in one way or another, one of the longest hairstyles that stands still today, and an image maker himself would have to be Mr. David Bowie. David, when I first got to know him, had in fact an afro hairstyle, and that was going back when he had Space Oddity. And he was sort of really presented himself just with the guitar on stage. He was a support act for the Small Faces at the London Festival Hall in London. And from there, of course, he went to the Lindsay Kemp School, and from there he gained his own identity. And throughout the period of time, we've seen many changes with David's music, but we've seen many changes of his imagery. And the thing that was so interesting when we did the end of the decade show for Countdown, and we went around the world, whether it be a punk rocker, or whether it be a new waver, or whether it be just a good old rocker, the one thing they all had in common was that they admired David Bowie not only for his music, but for his imagery as well. And I think that goes from the hair down to his feet. All right, enough of this. This show, judging from what I've seen backstage, is going to be a real eye-opener, and I will now like to present the Patrick O'Rourke The Show. Please take it.